Hey guys, welcome to another Pilgrim car review, and today we have the Lexus RZ, which stands for Radiant Zero. Why Radiant? I'm not exactly sure, but Zero obviously stands for zero emissions because this is an all-electric Lexus, and this isn't exactly the first EV that Lexus has come up with. This is actually the second one, but it is the very first ground-up EV that Lexus has produced, and this is available for sale, unlike the Toyota BZ4X. This is available for sale in Singapore. So for today's review, we are going to go check out its exterior, take a look at the outside, check out its interior because there are a lot of sustainable materials inside the car, and then we're going to go take it for a drive and see how it fares in Singapore's road conditions. But before we do all that, if you are a driver in Singapore and you're thinking about selling your car for the best price possible or consigning for the best price possible, be sure to check out the link in the description, because through that link we'll be able to provide you the best possible quote and valuation for your used car. In fact, if you are in need of insurance renewal, there is also another link in the description for you to check out. These are free to inquire, so please check the link out if you need these services. And with that, let's get on with the review. Alright, so jumping straight into the review, this is the exterior of the Lexus RZ. And no surprises here in terms of styling. I think it looks quite quintessentially Lexus. In fact, despite being an EV, which means that there isn't a need for front grille, Lexus have found a way to still incorporate the spindle effect into the front face of the car. So I think that's pretty cool, very recognizable. And I think the front actually reminds me a lot of the Lexus NX, which I feel this car is probably the most closely related to in terms of size as well. So if you are shopping for a car in the segment of the Lexus NX and you're thinking maybe I want to go electric, then I would say the RZ is probably like the most like-for-like petrol versus electric comparison, so to speak. Now let's go down the side and take a look at the side profile of the car, because when I was photographing this car earlier, the car kind of gives me Tesla Model Y vibes. Not sure what you think about that. And the C-pillar, which we will close in on right now, I think the rear end kind of reminds me a lot of the RX. So essentially, this car for me is like a cross between the Lexus NX, a Model Y, and a Lexus RX. But generally speaking, very good looking car, I must say. Not the best looking Lexus out there probably. In fact, we just reviewed the Lexus LBX, which is the baby crossover, and I think that might be the best looking Lexus to date. But as you can see here, you've got a full light bar at the back, and of course here you have the RZ450E emblem along with the word Direct 4, which alludes to the fact that the Lexus RZ is a all-wheel drive, so dual electric motors, one on each axle. But aside from all that, Lexus cars in general have always been known to be very popular among golfers. And for a long time I was wondering why, until I put my own golf bag in the RZ. So let's take a look. And as you can see, side to side, you can fit it all the way in, and there's still space on the side here, and there's still additional space for you around as well. So I think that is pretty cool. So not the largest boot on the market, but if you talk about fitting a golf bag in, if you're a golfer yourself, this could be a really, really cool option, because not many cars can accommodate a golf bag side to side in such spacious fashion as the RZ just did. But let's jump inside the car now and check out the interior of the car. Alright, so jumping into the front or the cabin of the Lexus RZ, and you'll notice that the air conditioning in the car is actually already turned on. And one of the things I quite like about the Lexus RZ is that unlike most EVs out there, which typically shut off the moment you open your car door, the Lexus RZ remains on as a default. So I didn't have to do anything special. So as I was talking you through the exterior of the car is actually still left on, which means that now I get to come into the car feeling nice and cool. Cabin's already nice and cooling, aircon's already on and running, so everything great. You know, love it when cars can do this, or EVs can do this. So jumping straight into the features of the cabin in the Lexus RZ, first thing you will obviously notice is the massive infotainment touchscreen. This is 40 inches, one of the largest on the market, and this absolutely dominates the dashboard, or the appearance of the dashboard. If you're using Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, then obviously your home screen is going to turn to that screen. But one thing I find pretty strange about Lexus interfaces is that the default home screen, there isn't actually a default home screen, so it looks kind of funky in a way. I don't think it looks the best, but it works pretty well. Everything's quite intuitive. You don't have to stress over finding different parts of the menu. Air conditioning controls are also very clearly displayed here. You've got more apps here, some shortcuts as well, and typically, yeah, and then you get these temperature control knobs, which are very synonymous with all the other Lexus models that you see out there. So I think this is pretty nice. And overall, I think despite its extremely close relation to the BZ4X, I don't think the interior of the RZ looks too much like the BZ4X. In fact, I think it has quite a different cluster display. So the one in the Lexus here, of course, you still got a full digital driver's display, but you don't have that open space that you get on the BZ4X. So I think for the layman, I don't think anyone's going to mistake this car for a BZ4X. But in any case, some nice features that you have around here. Obviously, you've got the Lexus steering wheel. This design of steering wheel is of course what you get on most of the current generation of Lexus cars, but somehow this steering wheel feels a little bit different in terms of the way the leather feels in your hand. It feels a little bit softer and a little bit plush, and that's a really premium feature or premium element that I kind of enjoyed the moment I got in the car. And then of course you got these nice pedal shifters, which obviously in an EV do not control your gears. They actually control your regenerative braking, and we'll talk a little bit about regenerative braking in this car later on in the driving segment. But before we digress too much, in place of a standard gear selector that you see in a petrol version or petrol car, you have this turn twist knob, which you basically press down and then you put. So now it's in drive. Turn left for reverse. You've got reverse camera. Reverse camera's pretty alright, not the best in the market, but you do have a top view 360 sort of, which I think is very useful for parking straight. So cars like these today, okay, I'm gonna just put this in the park so that the reverse camera doesn't keep beeping. So with a lot of these cars today, the design of the cars usually feature a wider rear than the front, so a bit like a swooping effect. And because of that, it's actually pretty hard to park the car straight using your side view mirrors only. The car always looks slanted, and if you align one side to the parking line, then the other side is going to be really slanted. So these top view 360 cameras, I think, extremely useful. Down the middle here, you've got two cup holders, which is great. You've got this wooden finish wireless charging pad. You've got a whole bunch of USBs here for your charging usage or for your accessories, and that's pretty much that. Storage in the middle here. You've got a nice little bin, which I believe is dual hinged, so you can open it on both sides. Can I actually remove it? No, I can't remove it. Can I? No. Okay. So yeah, you can see nice size middle bin here that's accessible from both sides. Actually, underneath the center console, you've also got a bit of space. But if I'm being perfectly honest, it's quite a bit of a stretch in terms of the angle. It's quite tight to reach your hand through. So I don't think you're going to be storing too many things there, unless they are like, you know, seldom, like items that are hardly used. So aside from all those features, I think you'll notice that the typical opulent leatherish interior of the Lexus is also a little bit different in the RZ. So at the top here, this isn't really leather. This looks like leather, but isn't leather. The center armrest is leather, and then you've got some leather on the side here of the center console. But everything else is this like special suede material that's sustainable or made from sustainable materials. So I think that's all in line with the Lexus RZ being a EV. So whether that really floats your boat or not, I leave that up to you. Personally, I'm a fan of dead cow, so I would prefer leather. But if you prefer this sort of thing, then by all means. I don't think there's an option at the moment to have this in leather or in, you know, real leather, but there are some advantages to it, particularly in a hot day like that. Getting into the car feels a lot more cooling. Oh, actually, talking about cooling, RZ comes with ventilated seats as well. Absolute lifesaver. But I must say, on these suede seats, the cooling from the seats doesn't feel as pronounced as if you had leather. Maybe because of the temperature variance as well. The seat just doesn't get as hot. So when you turn on the blowers for your ventilated seats, they just don't seem as cold as they would on the petrol version. Or sorry, not petrol version. With leather seats. Okay, but in any case, let's jump into the back of the car now. Check out what the rear of the car is like, because the RZ is, after all, 4 doors SUV. So I think it will be of interest to a lot of families out there. So let's go take a look. Alright guys, so jumping into the back of the Lexus RZ. One thing you'll notice straight away is the amount of legroom that we have. Superb amounts of legroom. This driver's seat is actually in my regular driving position. I am 175 meters tall. This car does come with comfort access, so now the car is actually turned on already, so the seats have actually moved into my driving position. So this is what your rear passengers will experience if they jump into the car while the engine is on. If the seats are a little bit further back because of the comfort access, then they will probably come up to here, probably. But still, a very respectable amount of leg room. So pretty happy there. If I were to take a more relaxed seating position, then, you know, I still have enough space for my legs. There isn't a lot of space under the front seat, so this is probably not a car where you'll be able to shove your feet under the front seat. But because there is already a decent amount of leg room, I'm not too concerned about shoving my feet underneath. Headrooms are actually pretty good as well, despite the inclusion of a panoramic roof here. And I think that's also pretty awesome. I have one of those bodies that, like, you know, my legs are shorter than my body, so generally when I sit, I'm the same height as a taller person. And I do have enough headroom here, more than enough. And you will also see that there is also sort of a flat floor in the second row, and the flat floor in the second row means that you should be able to carry 3 passengers in the back fairly comfortably. And if you are carrying young little ones in child seats, one of the things we look out for most is, of course, ISOFIX points, and those are available over here. In fact, I know I can't even find a car that doesn't have ISOFIX points these days, so probably not even worth mentioning anymore, but still good to know. But I think in a car like the RZ, you've got a very good chance of fitting a rearward facing full-size kit carrier without compromising the comfort of the front passenger. So in smaller cars, you generally have to put the seat forward a little bit, but I think in the RZ, there's probably more than enough space. It's also got a really nice recline angle, and this this suede material, this sustainable suede material, feels very, very cooling in Singapore's heat, so that's a real plus point. I'm not sure how waterproof this material is if your kids were to spill their drinks on the seats, but how I manage this in my household is that no drinks while driving, so my kid doesn't drink anything when she's in the back seat. So that's one way to mitigate it. But I'm not sure about your kid. Maybe your kid won't listen to you, so I'm not very sure about that. But in any case, some of you might have noticed I've got a very interesting milky effect in the panoramic roof above me, and that's because this is actually an electrochromatic roof mechanism. So it's basically an electromagnetic layer that kind of frosts out the glass at the top. You can deactivate it, and then you can see what's outside. And this is also quite heavily tinted in a sense. So even in Singapore's extremely hot weather, I was driving around with the electrochromatic roof closed, so to speak. That means with the frosted effect. And I must say that the car was pretty cooling. I didn't feel like there was an excess of sunlight coming in, so that was all pretty good. And of course, you can turn it on and off as you wish for depending on how much privacy you want for the day. and that's, I think, quite a nice touch. A little bit of a premium touch to say, because as we saw in the front of the car, premium touches for a Lexus perhaps not as predominant in a car like that. So premium features like this, which remind me, which we first saw on the BMW iX, I think these are pretty cool. But in any case, let's jump back into the driver's seat, take the car for a drive, and see how it feels. Okay, so we are now ready to go on a drive and test out the Lexus RZ. So before we get on the road, to get some specifications out of the way, so the Lexus RZ has a battery pack of about 71.4 kilowatt hours. So in terms of battery size against the size of the car, I would say that the battery pack feels like it's on the slightly smaller side. But that being said, Lexus claims a range of about 440 kilometers on a full charge, which is actually fairly decent considering the size of the car and the size of the battery pack. Whether or not it actually goes 440 kilometers, we'll have to test the car more extensively to know, but I doubt it will. So honestly, in a car like that, I would be happy to maybe get about 360 out of the car. If the car can do 360 kilometers on one charge, I would say that, you know, everything kind of matches up. In terms of power, this is dual electric motor, so one on each axle. So in a way, you have all-wheel drive, and that also means that you have a fairly powerful car. So how powerful? About 308 horsepower, which produces about 435 newton meters of torque, 5.3 seconds 0 to 100. So all that sounds pretty impressive, and when you do step on it, the car does move, no doubt, you know, absolutely. But I do wonder if having dual electric motors on a luxury SUV like the RZ is absolutely necessary, because I would have settled for a single electric motor on the front axle. You know, you can utilize the same battery pack, but, you know, dumb down the power a little bit and give consumers a little bit more range. So if this car were to do 0 to 100 in say 8 seconds and could manage a range of say 500 over kilometers, that'll be absolutely wonderful. I don't think anybody would have any complaints, because you would still get fairly respectable torque figures from the car. In fact, if you compare this to you know, for you to feel like a car is brisk, all you probably need is about maybe 230 newton meters of torque, 250 newton meters of torque. That's a very healthy torque figure already, and something that entry-level turbocharged cars would probably produce. So 435 is a lot, you know, it's a lot of torque. But let's get on the roads. So in terms of road feel, right off the bat, immediately you can feel how comfortable the Lexus RZ is. In fact, it's it's quintessential Lexus. It just kind of floats over everything, or wafts over everything. I do feel like suspension setup on the RZ is a little bit on the softer side though. So as you are accelerating, as you are turning, and as you are braking hard, there is a little bit of lunging and squatting, you know, that you feel with the car. Nothing too unpleasant though. So if I were to going on to, you know, but that being said, you know, when you go over the car, when you go over the humps, front and back balance of the suspension, it feels quite okay. Side to side, the car does feel a bit, I'm not so sure, I wouldn't use the word unsettled, but let's just say that I wouldn't drive this car too quickly, because there is still quite a bit of weight involved with the Lexus RZ. So if you were to take a swift corner like that, you do feel the car kind of lunge a little bit. One thing you can't complain about though is power, because the Lexus RZ has quite a lot of it in abundance, and generally speaking, I would say that the power is delivered in a really pleasant way. So like I said, you know, front and back in terms of the car moving off, everything feels quite tight and quite proper. It's just when you chuck the car into a corner or when you're trying to make like a U-turn very quickly, you do feel the weight of the car get a little bit unsettled. But in any case, I am also the person who said that the Lexus RZ probably didn't need to be this fast because of the demographic that it serves. So in that sense, if you drive the RZ in a calm and collected manner, like you would a family car, then I don't think you're going to have any real issues with the suspension setup as well. Most cases, or in most settings, the suspension setup of the RZ is absolutely comfortable, super comfortable. Probably not as comfortable as something like a Q8 e-tron, which I think was impeccable. For me, that's the gold standard of comfort at the moment. But the Lexus RZ is not too far off, you know. It's actually a really, really nice car. Coupled with the fact that you've got an electric drivetrain, so everything's nice and quiet. Aircon is nice and cold. This is the kind of vehicle that you just kind of cruise around at about 70 or 80 kilometers in, which in any case is probably the optimum speed for efficiency when it comes to EVs as well. Because if you go any faster, battery tends to drain a little bit more. But let's join the expressway and then I can show you what the Lexus RZ does in terms of acceleration. Let's see if we can chase down this Boxster. So absolutely no issues. Making the Boxster S look like a joke here. So extremely brisk, extremely capable, no complaints whatsoever about the power. Now let's talk about the RZ being just the second electric car in the Lexus lineup. So, you know, obviously being part of Toyota Group, you would expect the developments for EV technology to be a little bit quicker with Lexus and Toyota, but surprisingly they've been kind of slow to it. And obviously rumor has it that up the highest level of management in Toyota and Lexus don't really feel that EVs are going to be the future, so to speak. At our level, I don't think we really know what's going on in terms of what is available, but I think it's such a waste because I think a Lexus SUV or Lexus family SUV like that is the perfect template for electrification, because what people want out of cars like that is better space, more comfort, lower running costs, and of course, you know, luxury along with the rest of the things as well, which in an electric Lexus kind of ticks all the boxes, because with an electric platform, you've got no rear transmission tunnel or you've got no hump in the back. You could, generally speaking, you've got a little bit more space in the car. Space utilization gets a little bit better, and then it's also extremely comfortable and quiet, obviously because it's an EV. And running costs, it's also arguable that this is going to be quite low, because aside from the upfront cost that you purchase the car, maintenance wise there's really not much that could, you know, so to speak, go wrong. And obviously that's true for all electric vehicles, but obviously, you know, many buyers coming from petrol cars have already had this mindset that Lexus cars are the most reliable on the planet. So I think that's just a really good storyline in general. So low running costs, comfortable, good space, and obviously a high level of luxury as well. Which, you know, obviously in this particular car, I think the sustainable suede material does kind of detract from the whole luxury bit a little bit. I would have preferred to see a little bit more leather and a little bit more premiumness in that sense. You know, if the whole car was covered in this armrest material, I would be super happy, but it's not. So I think the Lexus RZ does take a slight hit in terms of luxury when it comes to those things. But aside from all that, I think this is a perfect car for electrification, and I think anybody who is considering a luxury EV should definitely take a look at the Lexus RZ. It must be said though, I think many of you will have already known this because you will have checked the price. The Lexus RZ isn't exactly the cheapest in its segment. So in Singapore right now, based on current COE conditions, and at the time of making this video, obviously, I think this car retails for about 400 over 1,000 just above $400,000 in Singapore, and that's quite a lot of money if you consider that you can also get a Q8 e-tron for about the same money. And cars like the new i5 actually cost less than this, and that's a very luxurious car and a very, very capable EV as well. So I think it really depends on your taste, but you know, if you are a lifelong Lexus fan and you're a fan of the whole Japanese craftsmanship, Japanese luxury, Japanese quietness, premiumness, then I think this is a very easy choice for you. All you need to know is that the Lexus RZ is a more than capable car, and that it functions as it should. If you have any other questions about the Lexus RZ that I happen to have missed out on, please put them in the comments section below. I will be more than happy to answer those questions when I have the opportunity to. The channel is getting quite a lot busier, a lot more comments, a lot more people, a lot more subscribers. So, I want to take the opportunity to thank everybody who has supported the channel so far. I'll get to your comments as soon as I can. Just bear with me while I access my condo. Thank you. This is actually the first time that I've done this on the channel, which is drive all the way home in my test car. But in any case, yeah, so thank you so much for subscribing and thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. If you have enjoyed this video or found it useful in any shape, way or form, I would really appreciate if you give me a moment, if you give this video a like and subscribe to the channel, obviously. And once again, before we head off, if you are a driver in Singapore and you are looking to sell your used car or consign it for the best price possible, be sure to check out the link in the description box below, because through those links we'll be able to provide you the highest possible quote and valuation for your used car, and we are also able to get you some pretty competitive quotes for your insurance if it's that time of the year and you need some help renewing your car insurance. Check out the link, it's free to inquire. Definitely you want to do that. So if not, as usual, please take care of yourself, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.